sometimes extremely efficient because it goes out to more people, but extremely inefficient to our close friends and family.
Right,
sit there and like, oh, you need to go to therapy, but like, yeah, but I did this for So.
Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Belgian Jasper. If this is your first time in the channel, hit subscribe right now.
Josh, thank you so much for your time today. I know these are very hectic times as we are leading up to the release of Terrasite coming out next month. And I'm just going to start by stroking your ego here a little bit. For me, Terrasite is the death metal album to beat for this year. This came out really well. How are you living up to this release? I know that you've seen some good reactions already. I'm sure that you feel good about your product. But is this like, hey, we've done this a million times, or you're super excited, can't wait to get it out there? What's your state of mind right now?
I mean, we're always, the last tour we did was the end of 2022. So we've all been kind of laying low for a few months, and just, I mean, that doesn't mean we've been, inactive. And there's, we're speaking here, and I've done a few of these in the past few weeks. But there's that, and then there's, the merch rolling out. We have new production elements that we're bringing in. So there's, a lot of back and forth with people that are, making that. So everyone's been, super busy. So we're just looking forward to get out. We have the tour starting May 11th in the U.S., and we dip into Canada, a few places as well. But we're just ready to get back at it and get on the road. So it's we're average, just a month-long tour or whatever. But after that, we have a few things planned for the rest of the year and then into 2024. So it's just gonna,
it just never stops. It never stops.
We were so stunted with after Death Atlas came out because of COVID, of course, that we didn't get the full usual tour cycle. So this is kind of like the second chance at that, having that ability back to our our normal that we were in. So hopefully that we're not, hung up on anything, or the world is not either.
I obviously had a chance to listen to the full album already, and first things that for me comes like it sounds so fresh and energetic and so diverse, and it feels like, and band members have mentioned this in other interviews as well. For the band, it also kind of felt like a bit of a reset or almost a rebirth after Death Atlas, and it depending on how you count, this is your 10th full length release, really. But it feels more like a debut album in a way. Is that also how you feel?
I think we just try to tweak what we're doing, hopefully in the positive direction. Each record comes out, reassess it over the time between there and starting to write for the next one. And then we usually sit down before we begin writing and just kind of do what do we want to accomplish with the next record, or what are things that we want to emphasize that we had little tastes of on the previous record and all that. And of course we did that before we started writing for Terrasite. But I don't know, it feels every band, I would imagine, I would hope, excited before their new album comes out.
Right.
I get how it's after so many years you're the newness of the feeling and the emotional energy behind that may not wear off, but lessen. And I'm not saying we're different, but I mean we're all no one's sitting here pacing in their house endlessly, at least no one's mentioned it yet, but just freaking out. But we're just excited to get new material out there. We're proud of it, and we want people to check it out, enjoy it, hopefully, and go from there. It's I feel that we're a very much a live band, and that's a big part of our identity. So we just want to get out and live up to that. We have material we're proud of. We want to present it in a way that's engaging to people, and hopefully pretty insulting.
Would you consider yourself a nostalgic person? Do you get to a point now where you're starting to think about things like milestones and legacies and looking back and celebrating? Or when you think about, okay, this band started in the 90s, I'm just getting...
96, yeah. I don't think, we're proud of certain things that we've done. Or, I think we can look, personally, how each one of us approaches, the band, or just what they consider achievements, themselves. But I think we're so like always looking forward to the next thing that doesn't mean we take for granted, things that happened in the past or gloss over that at all. But there's always the next thing and something we can do better, or add to the kind of the sort of the recipe to enhance the next thing we do. So I think we're always kind of looking forward to that, and none of us are really ever complacent or satisfied. It doesn't. It's kind of the thing where it's just like, it's kind of torturous in the way that you're always just like, oh, going through this better, or something, can be
Right.
not say improved upon, but we can have like a new angle of things, So there's an excitement of like, us going like, well, what? Not that we're like just really like scratching our heads looking for something different to add, but it's just like what's in the beyond, what's in this sort of mysterious what next kind of thing. So we're definitely not just kind of doing some sort of legacy like, oh man, this album that did pretty good, people really like that one, let's just try to rewrite that album how many times. It's like we're always trying to like, not a conscious like honoring those records, but just like a sort of learn from everything and move forward and just try to write the best songs possible with as much replay value.
When art is created and it stands for something and you can go dig into it, and there's a concept to not just this album but the whole journey of the band, and there's so many layers into it and you can explore. But then there's also, when you release that, there are going to be legions of people that will not do that. They will listen to a song and they'll go like, I like it or I don't like it, and I'm going to party to it or I'm not going to party to it. Mm-hmm. For you, for a band that is so clear in what you stand for, and want to tell that story, is that at all a frustration when people don't go beyond that surface?
I mean, it's like I'm pleased that if someone wants to enjoy it, or like on whatever level that they do that, that's fine. But there is a ton of work put into the concepts, and like, kind of there's like, we've done this thing where you create this sort of like, for each record has its own sort of, like mini novel of backstory with it that kind of supports a greater, I don't want to say not mission, but just some sort of greater kind of theme.
Yeah.
But so, I mean, it's not, I don't want to say it's a shame, but it's just like, if people knew the amount of time like that, like say Travis puts into developing concepts and getting how the art matches with it and everything like that, they'd be like, oh wow, that's not just like, just draw a skull and some dead things and here's 10 songs, whatever, or whatever. It, there's a ton of thought that goes by. He's almost like writing like just a kind of, I almost said like fiction, and I don't mean people will be like, yep, see, no,
for sure,
around this thing. So it's like each sort of, he's doing that every record, and sometimes like, if there's like shorter durations in between records, it's like, it's an amazing amount of creative energy and effort to put in to do that. So regardless of what we're doing musically, there has to be, and I don't foresee that stopping anytime soon, has to be this kind of story, and this, like in this case, there's a central character basically, and then what supports that, what leads people to like, oh, this is why this thing exists, and what does that say, and how does that support what the band's about, So if people don't want to look into that, that's fine. They just want to go cool cover, dumb cover, whatever they think, or oh, I love this song, or oh, this is crap, whatever. That's fine. It's just, I think people who are, either they don't have to be long time, but people who are Cattle fans, they're gonna read the lyrics, they're gonna go in, they're gonna like either watch interviews, listen to interviews, whatever it is, and just kind of look at as the backstory and what the concept is. I don't think we're a band that really promotes casual kind of like, there's songs people like, more than others or whatever, but we're not a one or two songs on a playlist. And that's it. I'm thankful that we kind of inspire people to like look a little further into what we're saying, or what, the artwork, what's this imagery, and what's this kind of material that goes with it, so like I said, it doesn't bum me out, but I'd like for people to look into it because a lot of work.
Yeah. When you play your shows, when you go on your month tour, on average, hopefully not half, but a good chunk of your audience is going to think that global warming is a hoax. And very proud to believe that as well. Is that something that does that never really enter your mind? We're in the craziness of touring, or are there moments where you just kind of go like, okay, I have to kind of make a switch not to be bothered by that?
No, I mean, occasionally, like, we'll talk about that sort of thing when we're traveling, but it's not, I think you just kind of get in the mindset of like, it's like you're kind of here to work and you just do your business and the setting. I think that if there's like reflection like that, maybe it'll come up when we're all sitting together on the vehicle, or it's something, you kind of comes to your mind. I mean, our band itself, like within the band, there's a lot of different viewpoints, So, I mean, the sort of theme and thrust of the band is, whether it's perceived or actual, like, is one thing. And then there's this whole array of sort of, spectrum of people within the band that are like, yeah, that's me. Or other people are like, well, yeah, I get that, but that's not my thing.
Sure.
Or whatever, it's just this kind of deal. So it's, as far as like, I mean, I think we've kind of like, we get kind of, because of how the band was promoted, like really like early on in our existence, I think people kind of just saw that, if they were around back then, saw that and were like, okay, here's the box I'm going to put this band in,
Right.
And so that either turns them on or really annoys them. So it's interesting to like, if you have someone like, oh man, I just put off listening to you guys for so long because I thought you were a bunch of like hippies or whatever, some like hippies playing death, and we're like, absolutely not. If you know any of us, absolutely not.
Right.
And we thought you were gonna like shove all this whatever beliefs or politics down our throats. It's like, no. And then they're like, well, I finally checked it out. I like the song. I saw you guys live. I'm like, what the hell have I been doing? I've been writing these guys off for how many years based on assumptions I had about, about those guys, So it's like, I mean, their lyrical approach was different, but like with Carcass, it's not like exactly with those guys. They're like, oh, those hippies in Carcass or whatever, It's it's, or even, Barney from Napalm or whatever other bands, it's like that. We're like no one would ever mistake those guys for that, but for whatever reason, our, I mean, for whatever reason for us, it was met with skepticism.
Right.
Like we were coming in like, oh, here's these guys from, well, part of it too, I think, was because of how the band was, I don't want to say founded, but early members of the band were also in the band The Locust, which was, I mean, it's like me, like if someone like, for more traditional extreme music, metal, whatever, they're gonna like look at that like, oh, what is a bunch of like skinny, like what is that? Is that some sort of punk or hardcore thing? And then if they were actually to listen to that band, they'd be like, oh my god, this is the most abrasive, like this is art in a way that's like that transcends, either genre.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But we had that lineage initially. So I think coming from that, and it's like, oh, they come from that, and also, some of them, especially at the time, what all of us were, not anymore, but like Travis and I still are. But they're all, vegetarian, which means, let's just take a jump. Oh, they're all vegan warriors and stuff, and they're gonna like spike trees and, blow up bulldozers or whatever. Take that, and then it's just like, I don't want to know that band. Or, oh, it's like a bunch of, like I said, this college town hippie pamphleteer kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, we definitely have values as a band, and what we're about, Travis is the lyric writer, so sorry, he kind of speaks for us, in that way.
Right.
So, I mean, how many bands that had like sort of, we're not talking like super satanic, like everyone's on board, but like bigger bands were like, oh, there's a sort of a Satanism theme. It's like, well, this guy actually is a deacon in his church or whatever, kind of. But hey, it's a living, that kind of shit.
Yeah, exactly.
We're all like, it's what the band's about, but I mean, no, just come and see us live and listen to records, and it's like, oh, no, sure. Judge us on our music and our, and live presentation. If you don't care for that, then that's fine too. But, look a little deeper. In,
Exactly.
20 some years after, we were introduced that way.
It's not, quote unquote, only macro societal, let's just say, situations that influence the band. A very specific song, which is the epic closing song of the album, Just Another Body, is equally fueled by personal loss in the band and around the band. I don't want to, want to be respectful and don't go into too many details, but a question that, like, when bands, I've asked this question to more people that have written about a very personal thing and playing that, because these songs then often, because they're so genuine, relate well with your audience and people want to see that live. And what is that like for you as an artist, that, you put your entire personal heart and soul into a song, which might be a very difficult thing to do, and then a song becomes popular and you need to play it 1,000 times? Does that make it, is that like therapy, or is that something, it's too tough for me to play that song? Like, what's that like with you guys for that particular song?
I don't think I guess you could say it's a type of therapy for it, but it's also, there's that thing, like you kind of mentioned earlier, if people are people getting what we're trying to say, or do they just enjoy it for the music part of it? It's like, if people buy Terrasite and, read the lyrics and then see certain other things that we're going to have in the insert, everything, it's going to be a lot more obvious. But I don't know. It's I hope that's something I hope that, like, people take away, from that. It's like the lyrics are, like, not gonna, like, maybe deter anyone from, I don't know. I just hope they make people think. And I think there's so many people that have been affected in the same ways that we were, for the same reasons, that that hopefully they can kind of see where we're coming from, where Travis's lyrics, and really sort of, but it was a lot of reflection after everything that happened with that. And we were in the studio, like, I'd say maybe the studio beginning of May, so if, like, literally a couple of weeks before that, we're, like, finishing that song, Just Another Body. That was the last song I wrote for the record. And musically, Travis finished lyrics later, but we were in the midst and we heard about Gabe, and it was just like, was one of the founders of the band, and he left on good terms, so we're all still very good, good friends with him, and would see him around occasionally, and just, it was a very good interaction. We would play with some of his other bands here and there, and, it was a very celebrated member, past member. And, so that was, when we were in the studio, it wasn't like, everyone's, like, staring out a window 8 hours out of the day and whatever, but it's still definitely affecting, beyond just whatever stress and whatever was related to recording. There was that, this thing, kind of sort of, not just sort of a presence, basically. Yeah. So that definitely probably steered certain choices. It's going to sound weird, but, like, production choices that each are stuff that, like, we were recording. So I really want to impart this element to that song to give a certain vibe that affected him. And then with Travis, like, he didn't have lyrics for that song, were not, like, completed in the studio. So, like, he went through experiencing all this, like, losing Gabe, and then later while we were in the studio, Trevor Sturt had passed away. So it was like these two things together. It's like, it was, a ton of time, for reflection. So those definitely inspired his lyrical themes for not only that song, but like the back half of the album definitely has several, like, allusions to, like, that, those elements, and that, having to kind of experience that. Most of us hopefully are lucky and, don't have to, like, deal with that expecting you like, personally until later in life or whatever, or ever. But, the older you get, the more you're gonna be around to see these things happen. And it's just, that's what music is for anyway, I'd hope, It's like, here's a way to sort of healthily kind of, like, confront this within yourself and just how you're experiencing it. and we're musicians, so we're horrible at communicating like emotions verbally or to one another, to people we care about or others. But hey, man, we're a lot better with it when we can channel it into our instrument or vocal presentation or the lyrics and all that. So it's like everyone, just like anyone else, have this stuff inside us, but our means of conveying it is sometimes extremely efficient because it goes out to more people, but extremely inefficient to our close friends and family.
Right? Yeah.
There and like, oh, you need to go to therapy, but like, yeah, but I did this for So.
For us to wrap us up and on a, let's say maybe a more lighter or inspirational or a fun note. This is the second album that you got with Olivier and Belisario in the band. They joined just before the previous album was released. I don't know. I don't remember how actively involved they were in making that album, but now that there was this forced break with COVID as well, and you mentioned throughout the interview that we all kind of brought our elements to it. Does that mean that they also had more chance to kind of like really integrate into the band and are more part of it?
Yeah. For Death Atlas, like it was because of where like that. Okay, that record was written. Everyone, well, Olivier's in Montreal, but everyone else. By that I mean myself, Travis, and Bell. We're in San Diego. Dave has been in Seattle for many years, probably now. Right. Yeah, since 2016, he's been back up there. So he would commute down to write maybe a couple times a month or whatever. But with Terrasite, Olivier's still in Montreal, Dave's still in Seattle. I'm in Europe now. So I had to do the very once a month long commute, go over, sit in San Diego, spend 3 or 4 days just hammering out songwriting, and then go back. Everyone studies on their own, and then return and everything like that. So, I think with Death Atlas, like it was a little more like kind of not warming up, but like to where everyone felt comfortable, kind of like the other guys, like integrating writing wise. And then with Terrasite, it was like, well, this becomes almost like now we're at like business as usual. Everyone's, whatever they contribute it's a normalized thing. It's not like this sort of gently like stepping. Kind of thing. Is it raining? I don't know. Or is it, how cold is that here or whatever?
Right.
So it was a lot, despite the logistical difference or like issues with distances and coming in, flying out, coordinating all that. It ended up being like, oh, you guys have integrated really well. There's just like normal cabaret writing, just heads butting and this creative tension of like my part's the bad, your part's all this whole thing, like every band. Then just a lot of push pull. So I mean, welcome to the band. There's us staring each other down in a practice room, sweating with frustration, kind of stuff. So that's just sort of the I don't want to say unfortunate, but the sort of reality of how we construct things. So, they were, like I said, like Ollie's in Montreal. So a lot of his writing was like we'd send him, demos or whatever, and he'd kind of come up with stuff along to that. And he's incredibly good at when he's actually in a studio recording to come up with stuff on the fly, like little bass lines or like little walking parts or stuff that just kind of enhances the whole riff or whatever. I'm very much someone who, although I'm kind of forced to do that occasionally, I like to prepare and overthink things and rewrite something 10 times just to go back to what I originally did.
Right.
Whereas he's really good with just on the fly coming up with great stuff. So that's kind of where he really excels. And then Bell's with us whenever we're writing anything in San Diego. So he's fully integrated in that way too.
I already kept you a minute longer than I promised. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Enjoy your weekend now. Friday nights in Berlin are fun. So have a wonderful time, and I'm super excited for all the fans to listen to the full album on May 12th. We'll have it. Yeah. Awesome, man. See you soon, hopefully on a stage, and have fun with all these interviews you have to do right now.
Oh yeah, I got a few more stacked up, so thank you very much.
I bet.
You are awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it and subscribe to the channel.